Welcome to Microsoft Social Engagement Module 2, Connecting and Configuring. My name is Julie Yak. For our outline for this module, we'll go through discussing the different connections available to our social sources. They fit into 3 common buckets. Then we'll talk through and do a demonstration of connecting to our Dynamics 365 organization. And then finally, we'll discuss some of the common configuration items that we use in social engagement. So before we talk connections, let's talk about what sources are available. I'd mentioned they fit into 3 different buckets. So here we have authenticated sources, those that require you to have an account, a sign-in, something available for you to authenticate with. Then we have common sources, news streams that are available to all, and so on. And then we have custom sources for RSS and Atom feeds. So let's talk through some of the commonalities with our authenticated sources. So our authenticated sources will give you access to otherwise private information, that information only available to registered users. For the most part, our authenticated sources allow us to have that engagement aspect of social engagement, listening and responding. There are a couple of exceptions to this, and we'll discuss those as those different sources come up. You also see publicly available information, not just that private. And this content is available to other users in your social engagement organization. The profile owner is the one who decides what sharing happens. So let's discuss Facebook. Most of us are familiar with Facebook. Most of us are Facebook users. With our Facebook integration with social engagement, it allows us to monitor public-facing pages, those that have no age or geographical restrictions. It allows us to engage with private messages on Facebook. There are explicit permissions that are required to be enabled. You have the ability to add an explicit Facebook-only search query. Facebook does not participate in the blanket search query. It's a Facebook explicit search. You can listen and engage from within social engagement. Now you can do this as both a user or as a page owner. And at least one authenticated account is needed to allow acquisition of Facebook content. Even the public-facing acquisition of Facebook content requires an authenticated user. Now, when it comes to Twitter, Twitter allows the private messages as well. You can do a Twitter-only search by choosing Twitter as the exclusive search, but also the Twitter information participates in our keyword searches. You must do an explicit choice to allow the acquisition of private messages from within social engagement. You can, as an option, follow specific Twitter users so you can identify those influencers or those that have other importance in your organization and explicitly follow their tweets. And you can listen and engage from within social engagement. Let's do a quick demonstration and I'll walk you through how to connect your Twitter user to social engagement. So now let's go in and we'll set up our Twitter user. So here we're going to go to our settings area. You can see that we have several choices here. We're going to go to social profiles. You'll see that we have a couple of items already set up, but let's go ahead and add a Twitter profile. This will bring you the standard Twitter dialog where you can enter your user information and your password. And then authorize the application. You'll see here that we've got it now included. We say that we own this as the owning user. We can share this profile with other users. We can have specific search topics designated with this user. Here we have a valid token that we can check. And if we'd like, we can allow the acquisition of private messages here. When it comes to Instagram, there is again that explicit approval that is required to get that acquisition of posts started. You set up your account rules and gather all posts and replies for a specific account. And if you wanted to do keyword searches, it is required to use hashtags in those searches in order for those to be gathering information. Instagram is a listen-only source, no replies at this time. And then we have LinkedIn as our source. You can share with LinkedIn via the social selling assistant once you've authenticated your account. You can post a link from within social engagement When you're doing those postings and those sharings, you choose the visibility of that post, either your connections or to the general public. And then coming soon, we have listening and additional actions available with that LinkedIn authenticated account. Several common sources and several commonalities within those sources. These are the sources that come up when we do our keyword searches. You'll see as you're building searches, you can have some different choices of whether or not you want to include these specific item searches. These require zero authentication. All of this information is available publicly. And you have many different language choices, and we'll discuss much more about languages soon. First, our news sources. We have thousands and thousands of different sources available coming in from the global providers of news. We've got the keyword searches, as I had mentioned, and in news, we can select different languages for our post acquisition. We can choose English, French, German, Spanish, and Portuguese. Reddit is one of those newer items that we have as an available source. It is a social news aggregator that has more than 200 million users. There are within the Reddit site itself opportunities for you to authenticate. However, this integration does not require authentication. It is a read-only source of publicly available information. When it comes to blogs, we have lots of different sources to come in for lots of broad coverage. We have full coverage of Tumblr blogs. We have broad coverage from WordPress, and then we have additional coverage from many different blog aggregators. And again, all of these are publicly available blogs. So if there's any kind of authentication or logins required, that information would not be available here. When it comes to videos, it is just the video feed from YouTube. So when you set up your searches, you will get your search results from video titles and descriptions. And very soon, we'll be getting search results available from the comments to those videos as well. Now, when it comes to custom sources, we have both RSS and Atom feeds available. This gives us virtually unlimited sources. You can add multiple custom sources in that single search, and you can also then add keyword searches to match posts from your custom sources. So let's talk about the connection to Dynamics 365. So connecting to Dynamics 365, you can include this on both forms and dashboards. You can include it on a dashboard, for example, to compare your social data alongside your customer data. You can keep an eye on your sales numbers and that ROI in response to social campaigns that you may have. There is configuration required on both the social engagement side and the dynamic side. We get many choices for automation options that we'll discuss in later modules. And you can do this as an online to online connection or as an MSE online to Dynamics on-premise. So how could you use this with Dynamics 365? So to manage cases, if you had your own customer service account, you could create those new cases based on tweets for that specific customer service account. You could then have a policy in place that reviews the stream of negative posts. You can create a click to create case. When it comes to analyzing socials data alongside that sales data, again, you can track buzz and sentiment to go along with those campaigns. You can watch the sales increase. You can find your influencers, and perhaps you can respond to any bad reviews that you have. Following that lead to opportunity to sale, you can configure Dynamics 365 to communicate with social engagement. Then you can take that lead from that social post and put it into the sales process that you already have in place. You can create that lead and the contact based on the criteria that you define for automation, or always create things manually if that's what's required. And now that we have this authenticated profile, we can do things like post directly from within the application using that profile. So let's go here to our social center and to the publishing area, and then we'll choose the Twitter option. And then you can see here that we can compose a tweet directly from here using this authenticated account. Now that we've connected our Dynamics 365, let's go ahead and talk through some of our configuration choices. We have some parent level choices: personal settings, social profiles, global settings, user management, connections, and automation rules. We'll discuss each of those here in some detail, but most of those are covered throughout the course and the different things that we're learning to configure and to complete. Here you'll see we have our personal settings. Everything from language to timeframes to date and number format are available to us here. If we want to put an image icon up there for ourselves, it comes from our Office 365 account, so that profile synchronizes over here for those personal settings. Our social profiles, we've discussed some of those social profiles already and how we can use those to our advantage in social engagement, but just a quick reference point for you here. This is also where we review our acquisition token status, so that if we are having trouble getting posts in, we can confirm that we don't need to re-authenticate, and we can do that here. We have several different global settings available, and from here we're going to dive into just a couple of them for some details for you. Languages. Everyone always talks about the different languages that we have available, and there are many of them. We have several available for the UI, from English to Finnish to Russian to Turkish to traditional Chinese. Those are all available as items in the user interface. When it comes to sentiment detection, we have all of those available. In addition, we have Arabic. And then when it comes time to gathering of posts for most sources, we gather in all of these languages we've already discussed, in addition to Bosnian, Croatian, Hebrew, Serbian, Slovenian, and Thai. Location groups allow us to make groups of locations so that we can analyze location-specific data or language-specific data if that's how we're building our groups. Out of the box, we have several pre-made location groups available. Those are not editable. But then we also have the option to build our custom location groups. As you can see here in our screen capture, we have a location group based on countries that speak French. So we can have an analytics set up for French-speaking items, for sentiment in French-speaking countries, and so on. So let's go in and make that location group that we just saw. Here we are in our global settings area. Let's go have a look at these location groups. We have several that come out of the box with the different locations. Let's go ahead and build one of our own here. Let's build one for French-speaking areas. You'll see that we've got the default is the owning user, which is me. So let's add some countries. You'll see that it has an autocomplete feature for us. So we can add some French-speaking countries so that if we'd like to keep an eye on and see what things are happening perhaps in our French language constituencies, then we can see if maybe there are some actions we need to take, or if we need to have some customer service discussions or things of that nature. So keep these here for our French-speaking items. You'll see here that we now got it available to us in our location groups. Now that we have our location group defined, let's go to the analytics area, and then we'll look at locations and see where we can find the location groups so that we can look at the details based on location with the different insights that we might have available to us. So here we are right here in the analytics area, location, and then our location groups. So here we have user management. You did a little bit of this in one of your prior hands-on labs where you brought in new users and assigned them user roles. Now we'll learn a little bit more about those roles. We have configuration roles and we have interaction roles. So on configuration side, newly invited folks will be seen by admin, and they will be given their configuration role by the administrator, but they sit in this purgatory state until that happens. Analysts can view the data analytics and edit sentiment as well as managing alerts, and power analysts can do those things plus create and manage their own searches, location groups, and activity maps. Power analysts can create and edit their own searches, but not that of any others in the organization. When it comes to interaction roles, in general, readers can read posts in analytics, but not edit any incoming data. Responders can interact with most things, but not unlink records with Dynamics or manage streams. Only responders and managers can reply or post via the connected social accounts that we've been discussing. Connections, we've already done our connection to Dynamics from here, and we'll see throughout this course that we're making additional connections. We can build automation rules here, where we can also, in addition to setting up rules and filters, set up failure notifications. So if something is not working as expected, we can get notified. So as you can see here, both our Event Hub and our link to Dynamics 365 are disabled because we've not yet made those connections. So we can't build automation rules for something that's not been connected. We can assign items to another MSE user based on criteria that we set here in this automation rule, or we can set labels, and those labels help us to manage a large stream of incoming data. So as a review, we talked about our different connected social sources, some that require authentication, some that are common, and then those custom ones through RSS and Atom feeds. We did our connection to Dynamics 365 and talked about the reasons why one might want to connect to Dynamics 365. And we talked through and did some configuration for some of our system and personal settings in social engagement. Now I encourage you to go now and work on the hands-on document for this module for connecting and configuring. In exercise 1, we talk about setting up connections. Exercise 2, we customize some settings. And in exercise 3, we work through some automation rules.